Alright, this is a brief tutorial of Get On Board New York and London on Board Game Arena. This is a flip and write pathfinding game that it's called New York and London because there are two separate maps. We are looking at the London map because we're looking at 4 players. So if it's 4 to 5 players, it's this map. If it's 2 to 3 players, you flip the map over. It's basically the same, it's just a smaller, tighter map so that it works better for 2 to 3 players. So the game plays over 12 turns, 12 rounds, and in each round you're going to, a card is going to be flipped, and you are going to have to place tracks according to that card. You'll have options depending on which of these ticket cards is flipped. And you'll have a starting spot, and you're making your way through picking up picking up passengers, different types of passengers, and dropping them off. And there are various bonuses, public and secret objectives, and just different ways to score points throughout that. And these will be marked off as you score or subtract points as you go. A couple of important things to note at the very beginning. When you're making a path, you cannot cross over yourself. If you go back to a place where you've already been, it will say, are you sure you want to do this? And because if you do, you're eliminated from the game. So obviously you don't want to do that, and you don't want to set yourself up in a way that you're forced to do that, or otherwise you could lose early. The other thing is you're trying to avoid using the same streets that the other players are using. It's probably going to happen, but down here is where you would get negative points for going on the same spot that someone else exists. It's called creating traffic. These traffic jams, both of more than one player uses a street. So the first thing we're going to do is decide where to start. Do these different numbers here, 6 and 11. It kind of highlights them for you. Here is 6 and here's 11. You can choose where to start. I chose to start at 6. Which we'll just show here. Alright, and so my bus will show up there, and so as everybody else as well. So there's everybody's buses, their individual buses here, the 4 players, and the first bus ticket is 11. A couple things. First of all, each of you have some secret objectives, right? I have my secret objectives seen over here on the right. I can't see what their secret objectives is, but there's 3 points on the map, and if you're able to collect or connect your route to all 3 of those points, you get an extra 10 points at the end of the game. It's difficult to do, but it's worth at least trying if you're close to the area. And mine's highlighted here, right? C, I, and L. Those are the ones that I want to. And I'm already starting next to I, so that's kind of gives me a bit of a head start if I really wanted. And as you can see, I kind of messed that up a bit and got close to it, but didn't quite make it to all 3, which would have been nice. Might have helped me do better in the game. So the main process is everybody's going to flip over, see this flipped over 11, and then in your top row here it'll show you where your ticket is and what your path that you have to lay down is for 11. Now mine is just 2 straight paths, but down here theirs is just 1 straight, theirs is 1 straight and a turn, and there's just 3 straight. So everybody has a slightly different set depending on the ticket. And then you each take turns placing your route based on what the ticket is. Alright, so what does placing a route do for you? Well, when you place a route and you run to a certain one of these people, you're picking those people up. And different people give you various ways to score points. So the easiest one to start is these old lady ones. You don't actually have to drop these people off. Just when you go on to one of these spots, it starts filling in this track here, and every time you do it you get a point and then 2 points eventually, and so this is just quick points that you can get whenever you pick one of them up. The school children, when you pick those up, it starts filling in these people every time you pick one up, and then when you drop them off at a school, it'll fill in that school. Now you don't actually have to worry about the ordering of when you pick up the school children or go to the schools, because all it does is at the very end it takes this number, the number of total students that you've picked up, and the number of schools that you've passed through, and multiplies those together. So if I picked up 5 students during the whole game and 3 schools, that's 15 points at the end of the game, and it just is one time at the end. The tourists, these are the blue ones. When you go across a tourist, you pick that up and it starts filling those in. These you do drop off. So I'll pick up a tourist, maybe 2, 3. You can pick up to 4 tourists before you have to drop them off. And when you do that, and you drop them off by visiting either one of these with the light blue or one of these with the dark blue. As soon as you as soon as you hit one of those spots, it will take however many tourists you have on it and cross out that line, give you the points according to how far along you went there. So if I, for my first turn, it doesn't really work for my route, but if I went to this one tourist and then dropped them off right here, it would mark this off, and then it would mark a drop off. It would give me 2 points, and then this whole line would be crossed off, and I'd start on the next line, and so the next tourist I dropped off would start back here again. But if I dropped off 3 tourists or if I picked up 3 tourists before going to one of these spots, then I would get 9 points. So you kind of have to use that to calculate how quickly and when you want to pick them up, right? So you wouldn't necessarily want to pick up just one. So maybe I want to pick up this one and this one and then come up and drop them off, and that gives me 5 points. Or swing around to try to get 3 or 4 and then drop them off. You kind of have to play that out and figure out what you want to do. And then finally, the businessmen. It's the same idea. You pick up businessmen and then you drop them off, and you drop them off at these purple ones here with the, looks like a skyscraper type of building. And again, you do 1, 2, or 3, and then you drop it off to get 2, 4, or 6 points. However, when you drop off businessmen, you get an extra passenger, depending on how many you're dropping off. If you just drop off 1 businessman, you get an extra old lady. If you drop off 2, you get an extra tourist, and if you drop off 3, you get an extra student. That's what these ones down here are. You can get up to 3 of these extra students. And so the more that you do, it not only gives you those points, but it kind of bonuses onto the others. There are 2 public objectives. This one is the first person to get 3 of these light blue, to visit 3 of these light blue tourist destinations, will get 10 points, and then everybody else after that who also does it gets 6 points. So the first person who gets it gets the 10, and then it flips over and you get 6 points for it. This one is if you pick up 5 tourists, first person to do that gets 10, the others, anyone else who does it gets 6. So that covers all of the ways that you can get points. Now you can also lose points, and there's a couple of ways to do that. We talked a little bit about that already, where if you go on the same track that somebody else does, it starts filling these in. Now at first it's not a big deal. Like if you fill that first one in, it doesn't lose any points, and then there's just 1, and then nothing, and then 1, and then nothing. But then eventually, every time you fill one in, it gets -1 point. Also, if there are 2 people or 3 people on a street and you go on it, you get a traffic jam bus here for each other person that's on there. So if 2 people have already on it and I go on it, I'm going to mark 2 of these off, and so that starts to get more negative for you. The other way that you can lose points is by changing your route. So this first one is 2 straight, and I'm starting here. Well, I don't really have great options for 2 straight. The only one is up to here and up to here to get this tourist. That's the only way I can do 2 straight. Let's say I just don't want to do that and I want to turn, and I could do mark this first one off and go here and do a turn instead. What are these green lights, you may ask? Well, if you end your path on one of these green lights, you can actually go an extra spot in any direction. So these are kind of helpful to plan out for that. So it might be worth taking that -1 to be able to go here, here, and then go an extra one and go, I don't know, get another tourist, right? That would probably be the ideal move. I don't think that's what I did. Again, this was real time, so I was under a bit of pressure here. But these do add up pretty quickly. They're nice, but you want to try to avoid them, right? You'd much rather just do the traffic jam than these, because you can get a lot of negative points. And one of the players ended up using all of them, and they ended up getting last place, whereas the other players were using a lot more of these and doing much better because they just didn't get as many minus points for it. So you just kind of think ahead at what the risk and willingness is to do for that. So this is showing some of the other players, right? They place theirs down here to an old lady and mark that off. And the next person has a 3 in a row route, so they're going to get a student, a tourist, and they're going to the businessman. It doesn't really matter. Oh, a couple other things. There are a couple special places here, like this special purple one, this King's College named one, and the Piccadilly Circus. If you pass through those, you get an extra point for every tourist, student, or businessman that you have picked up since throughout the game. So if I end up going, this person goes through the Piccadilly Circus after they've gone through 6 or 7 tourists, they would get another 6 or 7 points. In fact, I ended up doing that for the King's College and getting an extra 5 points going through to that. So that's what these little spots here are for. Alright, so they just go straight there. They don't drop anybody off because they didn't have any businessmen. Well, that's fine. They can still go through that mark. And then my turn, I did something even weirder where I did end up using that check mark just to get the businessman and the school, the student. So it's probably not the best move there. I think if I was going to do that, I should have done the 2 tourists here to get me out in the middle, because getting stuck on these sides, you get a little bit limited in what you're able to do. Well, there are some nice little, like this one gives you 2 passengers over in the corners, so it could be worth it, but those are usually places that are harder to get out of and more likely that you'll need to use these adjustments. And so I did actually cancel that out and just go straight up, so I didn't have to use that turn yet. Alright, and then the last person went and they picked up. You notice that it's showing me what everybody else is marking off, and you get to see their scores as well, and it's showing me what I marked off because I picked up that tourist there, and so I was able to you can see, and it'll mark that off for you as you go. Alright, and then the next ticket is flipped over. Now it's 8. Now you can see for me, the 8 is just a single line, but for other people it's a double or triple or a curve here. There are some tickets that let you choose, right? This one, you have one curve, but you can go this way, or in a U shape. This one you can go 2 straight, or a straight and a turn. But you're going to go through each one of these. It's just 12 turns before the end of the game, and all of the end of the game is scored. Alright, let's skip ahead a bit. Okay, this is towards the end of the game, so you can see there's been quite a few things that have been checked off. There's a lot of traffic through here, a lot of routes that have gone. I've kind of stayed over on this side of the board, but some of the others have gone all throughout here. You can see I've done a lot of old ladies, and then I picked up and dropped off a few of these businessmen. You can see again when you drop off, it marks off, it crosses out the rest of it. You don't get that, but in this case I was able to get an extra businessman, in this case an extra old lady. This one I didn't quite get 4, but I got the 9 there, and that was kind of nice. You can also see I got 5 total tourists, which means I was able to get this objective I wasn't the first one to get it, so I only got 6 points for it. You can see that here. I don't believe I'll be able to get to that one. I didn't really get any of those, so, but one person was able to get that. Yeah, this person was able to get that one, and this one was able to get that one first. You can see I've used some of these turns and -5 points, but I've only used one traffic symbol. I've been kind of avoiding people. Now, for that same -5 points, I could have used 2, 4, 6, 7, 8 different traffic points instead of 3 turning. So you probably should favor that. But at the end, I do end up using a bit more of that. But like this person used all of theirs and got a -10 points, whereas some of the other players have been using the traffic a lot more and these a lot less, and they're the ones that actually end up doing much better in the end of the game. So it's my turn. I've got, I can see what's left. I have this one, and so I know my next one is going to be this one here, which is good, but it's not going to let me. I'm not going to be able to drop off these tourists in time, right? Because I'm right here, and I would have to get all the way over to here, and I just don't have enough paths to do that. I can get to this King's College, which is what I was trying to do, because I didn't want all of these students to be for nothing, and the King's College actually gets me the bonus there. So this is a pretty good move here, because I can place one here, and it gets me a bonus because I land on the intersection, which lets me then place one here, and you'll see how this updates. So I get the 4 because it's 4 times 1, and then a 4 extra here because I passed through it and I had 4 students come through there. So that was pretty good. 8 points is significant, and it put me up, towards first place there. I don't get much farther, but at least that was a pretty good move. At that point, I'm going to basically have to use traffic, because if I go here and here, which I could do it there with my last turn, I would go back into myself, and it would kick me into, I would lose there. So you could go here, and pick up a lot of people. I think that ends up to be what I do, because you do get some points for players that have not dropped off. I'm not sure exactly what how the values work, but it's like, I know for the businessmen, I believe it's maybe 1 per, or maybe 2 points per. For the tourists. For the businessmen, it may just be 1. Well, we can actually look ahead and see. You can see some of these other boards here. This person is doing really well with the schooling here. Like they got an extra student there, but they're not doing as much with the tourists, right? So you have to kind of, you do want to try to focus a little bit and see what you can get. And these public objectives, those 10 points are a big deal. In fact, I believe the winner ended up getting all of their secret objectives connected. I got 1 connected because I just missed, here's my piece right here, and there's the sea, and I wasn't going to get over here in time. So, I didn't do too well, but it was my first time playing. Again, when you do a traffic jam here, like if I put one on this place right here, it would give me 1 bus, but if I put it over here, it would give me 2, because there's 2 people there already. So let's go ahead and skip to the end. Alright, this is the very end of the game. Just want to show you some of the other players. So this player didn't do too well because they used so many of these, and they kind of had just a bit of a smattering. That was kind of how I spread things a bit too thin, and I didn't get to deliver a lot of the tourists that I had in place, so that kind of held me back, and I didn't get get the public or my secret objective. This person did really well with their tourists. They got 2 14s where they got 4 tourists before delivering them, so that was a big point. Big points for them. Plus they got one of the public objectives first. This person went real hard into the students and got 18 points there with 6 times 3. That's a big one as well. But they also were able to get their personal objective, which I believe is what brought them up to win the game eventually. So I'll go ahead and just, I went here and here just to pick up some extra people, and you'll be able to see you know, I got these 3 and it gave me 4 points, right? I had this one undelivered person and it gave me 1 point instead of 2. So there's a few points you can get for these undelivered ones, but yeah, this person was able to get their secret objective, which put them over the edge. So I got 3rd place, not too bad, but certainly would want to focus a bit more and plan out my route a bit more when I go through it again. But hopefully this gives you a sense of it. It's not too bad. You just kind of figure out your objectives, plan your route out a little bit, and make sure you're using these when needed, but not too much. All right, hope that helps.